Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Spodcast. I'm Joe, and tonight we've got a relative exclusive for the British audiences. We went to see Rise of the Guardians earlier tonight, and we're going to be giving you our full review and thoughts on that. But first, we'd like to welcome Delyth, who's been very kind enough to do the artwork for us, and is now appearing as a guest. So, I'd like to welcome her and Charles, our regular member, to the show. So.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. So, we're first going to be talking about going through giving Delyth the good old rigmarole we usually give our guests, and after that we're going to be having a look at Rise of the Guardians. So, Delyth, shall we begin?
I guess so.
Okay, so favourite cartoon which has been produced in the past 5 years?
Well, I guess what I'd have to say, the Avengers' Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Okay. Particular reason why?
Probably mainly because humour. I'm too much of a big fan between Thor and Hulk, and they have a lot of fun with those.
Okay. Okay. All right. Favourite cartoon of the past 10 years?
I'll say that'd be
Yeah, that's be quite a popular show. Any particular reason why you decided to have put Witch?
well, I guess it's something I used to watch after coming back to college. It's most things TV, so it just I'd see in the mornings or before I go off clubs. It's just a strange, very fantasy, even though I'm a big fan of good things at all. And because it's very girly, it's magical.
Very mature version of the magical,
Yeah.
especially with the monster lines and everything. Definitely hope a lot better than Winx. This show can die. It's getting a season 5.
Well, it's being rebooted.
Yes,
There's
I
even
hate
boys out.
it.
Hate it.
Okay. Favorite cartoon which is older than a decade.
It had to be Mighty Little Pledge, Conan the Adventurer, which I've gone and collected DVDs I kind of it and hopefully singing tune.
It's not usually a popular cartoon. It's friendly.
Well, it is
everybody's
sort
about
of
it.
here vanish really. It's like it's been given any reruns. I think it appeared for a short time on Jetix after D used to show in the early 90s. Otherwise, it sort of faded into obscurity and just the fact that most people remember the intro song.
So, Delyth, what's your favourite animated movie?
It would be Satoshi Kon's Paprika, which I find is what I've found is pretty much that it's sort of Marmite to most people. You either understand what's going on in it or you don't at all. But it's one of those multi-layered and fantastically animated films, so it's just a sight for our eyes, really. It's sort of a visual feast.
Okay. All right. Favourite episode? It can be anything you want. So, favourite episode?
Probably Digimon Tamers and the episode Lionheart, where the series pretty much make sure it's nothing like Adventure, pretty much killing Liam, but making sure it's permanent and everything is dark.
Okay. All right. Favourite short?
The Arden's Nest, which is a short about Shakespeare pretty much acting out all his plays in short sort of little cameos.
Okay. And so, shall we move on to the Mullen Kitten Award for series that just needs more love?
Love. Ooh, well, this would probably be coming between two things,
Okay.
as I'm horribly indecisive. One would probably be the Dreamstone, out in the mid 90s,
Okay.
and the other would be Cyber 6, which I think Charlotte talked about before.
Okay.
But it's something I managed to actually introduce to her, so.
Yeah. All right. Now, a series that needs just to be scoured from existence. The Cosmic Retcon Award for a series that needs to be scoured from existence.
Ooh. That would probably have to be Kung Fu Dino Posse.
A what?
Kung Fu Dino Posse. It just rubs child in your face and laughs. It's practically taken stuff like Extreme Dinosaurs and Ninja Turtles mashed together with some really, really, really corny jokes and stereotypes and cliches, trying to think it's smart and completely failing at every moment it tries. And it's just horrible, cheap, cold animation. Doesn't work.
All right. I'm just trying to picture it in my head, and it's not a pleasant image. Okay, so let's move on to the own choice awards. So the adaptations. What do you want anything you want to be adapted into an animated series or a full-length movie or?
Well, one that I think would work probably for both would
Really?
be Shadow of the Colossus. Mainly from its scale and the fact that it could be divided into episodes considering taking down each colossi per episode. Or it's just of that grand adventurous Lord of the Rings-esque scale for like a film.
Okay. It'd be quite difficult, sort of, with that much in the way of sort of character interaction with with Wanda and Argo. It would just be kind of them traveling across the plains together. You wouldn't really get that much in the way of dialogue, unless, of course, you want Wanda to be monologuing to himself all the time.
It'd be rather interesting if the horse narrated. That whole thing goes to hell and back.
Dear Diary.
He's the one that comes out in the end.
Dear Diary, the Master wanted me to hunt another one of those big stone creatures, and whilst he went off to try and kill it, I sat down and ate some grass. It was a good evening. I hope he doesn't let me die. Okay, and now original idea. Sort of just throw one out there.
Well, a project I've been working on since I think I started writing. There are so many versions of it, and I have tortured Charles with these various incarnations.
I'm her
And Tilda
editor.
of the earlier horrors that have occurred was a project that's now down to being called Dragons Tier, which is a story I'm hoping to adapt to a graphic novel, but without dreams of adapting the graphic novel into something more of animated or movie-based media.
Okay. All right. Sounds like it's like an interesting project. Okay, thank you, Delyth. Move on to Rise of the Guardians. New movie by DreamWorks, adapted from the series of Guardians of Childhood. It features Chris Pine, Alec Baldwin, Hugh Jackman, Elsa Fisher, and Law as various childhood creatures like Jack Frost, Santa Claus, the Bunny, Tooth the Fairy, all fight the Bogan, voiced by Jude Law. General thoughts on the way, and then we can get in about it. So,
Hey gosh, it's pretty.
it was pretty. Yes, it was.
It was very beautiful.
Yeah.
Not IMAX.
I agree. It was very well animated, well sort of and stuff like that.
They released a art book depicting all the various works they did in the artistic way they created. They'll be definitely by.
That book is available and it is absolutely glorious. It's just got a head price on it.
Well, I can wait down. I can wait down for it down in price or stop my parents. It is Christmas.
Perfect thing for the up and coming art student. Take me to see this movie and buy me the art book. I really liked it. Apart from anything else, sort of the idea that even though they're sort of fairly European sort of cultural identities of the Sandman, the Easter Bunny, and so on and so forth, they all have various different sort of hideouts from around the world. Like you've got Santa Claus basically lives in the Kremlin in the North Pole. He's very sort of Russian. He's a big Russian guy, and so it's sort of hidden up in the North Pole. And you've got the Easter Bunny, who's voiced by Hugh Jackman, so he's Australian, and so he's got this sort of place which looks a little bit lovely combination of sort of almost sort of Easter Island Polynesian kind of place with sort of rolling fields and stuff like that. One of the things which I found quite interesting is the fact that I was getting an almost European cathedral vibe from pictures. Sort of he pitched the Bogeyman has a Pitch Black has a hideout, and it's quite an interesting sort of almost.
It reminded me actually of sort of all the surreal arts and illusions, like with the endless staircases and something sort of similar to Jareth's hideout, even in the labyrinth.
Sort of almost sort of it all sort of mixes together. But yeah, so that was in terms of plots, what did people sort of think of characters then? I mean, I know sort of I personally really, really enjoyed sort of most of the sort of Guardians who were already there, but sort of a lot of people. I know Charles was not particularly keen on Jack Frost. I mean, has he sort of? No, we've seen the movie. Has he sort of warmed to you at all, or?
When I first saw the original teaser trailer, it focused mainly on Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, and Sandman, and I adored that trailer to bits. I wanted to see this film. I wanted to go out and read the books on these characters. Then the second trailer comes out, and then it reveals to you it is about them, but really it's about this kid. And you see Jack Frost doing what he does best, being loud, running through the streets, causing ice and having fun and cause chaos at the same time. And Grimace, because it was just like, he's our main character.
They sort of hammer that in when you actually go see the film, considering, DreamWorks always sort of have like they tweet their opening credits of their logo, and this clearly goes, look, it's Jack Frost, Jack Frost, Jack Frost.
But yeah, even though I think the voice actor was a bit old for Jack Frost, definitely the way he was talking. But Jack Frost did win me over. He's not my favorite character on the list. He's still underneath the actual Guardians. But with him, there is no movie. I do like him in this movie.
He also didn't come out quite obnoxious as the trailer sort of scene, but was clearly there put as a sort of link for the children.
Without the actual children being there.
Yeah, and he is very sympathetic, and you do want the children to believe in him, and you really do want people to actually see him.
Because that's one of the big things, isn't it, about the whole idea of belief and how that works with the Guardians. Like, all of them believe in all the sort of established Guardians, like you've got Santa Claus, the Sandman, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. Everybody can see them and sort of know that they're there. With Jack Frost, everybody's like, oh, we're just snow. And he's like...
Well, you can also see it from an actual teenage point of view. Jack Frost doesn't know why he doesn't know what his purpose is. And he is a natural teenage feel when you grow up, when you're at the protection of your... Why are you? What are you going to do? And
how to find his motivation and, purpose.
And literally find his own identity.
Yeah. It's sort of really interesting, but I really enjoyed the sort of whole idea of the world they created. It almost reminded me of it did remind me a little bit of the Avengers, a little bit each of them come from very different backgrounds and are doing very different types of work and have very different lives. They obviously have lives separately from them being Guardians, but when they're all called together to face a greater threat, then they turn up and it's all fighting together. And I thought that was quite an interesting idea. But yeah, so just out of it, what do you guys? Who's your guys' favorite character then?
Ooh, this would be a toss for me between Hitch. I looked at him and saw Morpheus from the Steel Game and Sandman, and I was like, ooh. And also the fact the Easter Bunny, not the stereotypical small rabbit, is a 6-foot-tall tattooed rabbit with boomerangs. Jackman.
They made a hell of a movie, though.
Yeah, just the Easter
I'm just
Bunny
thinking
self.
More Neil Gaiman Sand as the Sand, wandering in. Oh, Sand! And Santa being all like, oh, Sandy, you ever have here? Yeah, I have an idea. I think we too let dreams take... Let some kind of about dreams and so forth. And
go meet his sister and meet pigeons.
I'm going off to pigeons.
Hitch, the Boogeyman, was not my favorite character just because of the fact he is the king of nightmares and the essence of fear. I really felt like he doesn't have any control over his destiny. He is what he is, and he's treated like the villain for what he is, and he wasn't that complex. He was sort of what Jack Frost could have become if he went to very extremes, but he didn't do much for me. He was fun, but he didn't step to him.
He did seem to be sort of a mirror of the Frost and the way they even played the film, because when I first looked at it, I thought he could have even been a villain that could have come from Frost, because in the trailer there's no hint they knew of this villain to start with. It was like, what's this sort of thing.
But favorite character, I really do like them all. I like Easter Bunny because it's just Hugh Jackman, a giant bunny.
What you like? The cute appeal
Yes,
bunny.
when kids lose faith in Easter Bunny in the halfway through the film, and he turns into a actual tiny bunny, and it's so cute about the plush.
They also pull the Puss in Boots trick with the giant eyes.
Yeah.
But yes, I like Santa Claus because he's still jolly, he's still soft and approachable, but he is muscular, he is strong, he wields 2 knives, he is awesome.
They're 2 sabers. They're 2 proper sort of big cavalry sabers. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tooth Fairy, I like her because she's not the typical Tooth Fairy. She is a hummingbird-like creature. She's excited about her job. She loves every second of it, and she's constantly putting her fingers in Jack Frost's teeth because his teeth literally shine like snow.
She does have a bit of a toothish. It's even shown when she's talking to kids that she's a bit creepy with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, they've got blood and gums on them.
But the one I had an issue with was actually the Sandman himself because of the whole fact. Obviously, he's short, he's kind of round, he's kind of cute in that manner, but you're thinking they could have done something where he doesn't talk. So I'm thinking to that advantage, he could do so much where he's constantly changing form, changing his appearance. But all they do is to give him like little cartoon,
Thought bubbly sort of gestures and little shortcuts you sort of see like an anime, like drops and question marks.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, I think all the characters are quite well designed visually, and they all are quite distinct and different from, they could have stereotypically been. They're going to be mixed up for any other sort of claws. They're definitely very distinct in their style. The claws
Yeah. One of the things that's actually quite interesting is
is covered in tattoos. For one is.
One of the things I actually thought was quite interesting is the fact that if you sort of go back and read the original books, there's actually quite a lot more in the way of sort of Guardian characters and stuff like that. Like, you actually get to meet... the Guardians in the movie are sort of all watched over by, essentially, this thing called this guy called the Man in the Moon. And in this movie, they sort of play off as almost sort of a figure. Sort of like, we've got to pay for the choices the moon makes and so forth. But in the book, you actually go and meet this sort of guy basically lost on a spaceship, almost. And the whole idea that the spaceship is actually the moon, and he's sort of lost on it and trying to repair it and so on and so forth. And I just thought that was a really interesting idea. And they've got loads of others. Like they bring in a character who's basically Mother Goose, which is quite interesting. And she's sort of she's the sort of human character's eyes, whilst Jack Frost is sort of going off and doing his own thing. Yeah, Jack Frost wasn't originally the main character in the book, but they've made him one for the movie, which I think is quite interesting. Yeah.
This whole thing with the Man on the Moon, obviously, one of the first things Jack Frost to him says, "My name is Jack Frost. How do I know?" The moon told me so. We all cracked in the theatre. That was ridiculous.
Yes.
I couldn't take the moon seriously after.
No, he told me. You sit there and go, the moon's a he. It just flashed from it. Took me a while to realize I was referring to the moon. But the way it sort of came off was... It wasn't shown much later that actually they referred to entity. It wasn't like, I think, like Santa Claus and the others when they decide to start communing with them. And then you don't actually hear what the moon says, it just glows.
I was just wondering about the it's sort of a weird idea that the sort of man in the sort of the.
No.
I mean, did you believe in the man? Did anybody
I
believe in the Man in the Moon as a kid?
Like you said, what the moon is.
I
in the book,
remember it
that's
as a
so
nursery
interesting.
rhyme, really.
What's in the actual film, I didn't like. I had this huge issue any film where someone is telling people to do with the master patir, and it's like, this did not need Man on the Moon. Jack could have just had like slight memory of the word and associated last name with what so he called himself Jack Frost, or the Guardians, and he saw the pitch was, and they saw themselves, we're not long enough, we need another Guardian, and they looked for one, I don't know, Frost, the little thing, where they think, yeah, this kid has to be it.
It's sort of with the removed, not the actual moon, the present, this like almighty being, it would have been more substance to Jack wanting to know who he was, why he's like he is, and person life he has. Technically, the moon is the guiding force. Without it, just makes a bit more sense, and he gets more like a journey on instead of being put from A to B because the moon said so.
Not to mention, when you take out these grand forces, it gives the character more weight because it gives more reason they're the ones striving to do this. They're the ones who are risking everything to do this.
And taking the decision.
They're not being pushed. They're doing it because they want to.
I just find it one of the things which I find interesting is that sort of even on a metaphysical level is sort of like the just there's this idea that with sort of I actually think if I may go all difficult on the movies a little bit that this movie is actually sort of a good representation of the sort of onset of cynicism, the onset of becoming older and more mature, and sort of, I mean, think about the stuff that we liked as kids, and sort of they were fun, they were enjoyable, and they filled us with a sense of wonder and enjoyment and hope, and they were ridiculous as all hell, but we enjoyed them. But as we've gotten older, they become first starting off as being, oh, they're just little kids stuff. We're not going to touch that anymore. They're little kids. But as we sort of moved on again, we've come back to them and actually realised how much we enjoyed them, and sort of we've dipped into them again. It's probably one of the reasons why I enjoyed this movie so much, because of the fact it literally does feel like sort of a nice movement, a sort of full circle of sort of idealism and then moving into cynicism when sort of Hitch is sort of getting all his power, sort of how he's sort of making everybody just fear everything and not be hopeful at all. And then it sort of comes back into realism, being idealistic at the end, and it all sort of like comes in a nice full circle and also represents sort of how people go through life.
From this film, younger before the climax is that
getting a little bit too.
Frost alone have this talk. There's just this one word which him clearly trying to manipulate Jack what he wants. But he uses the word "I want a family," and Jack Frost with her, which you know, complete lie. But it kind of stuck to me for a reason, because you can see similarities between the two. You could have how easily you could have the story, and these could have sort of the same essence, or they were in kind of the similar way. And this, though I kind of wanted more from Pitch, I wanted Dev. He could have been more of an anti-hero.
He also sort of a strange his sort of hideout, because it was just a broken bed. So for all you know, it could have been a kid in a hospital or an asylum or something that made him feel dark.
Clearly, the monster under the bed.
Under the bed, yes, but he could have, because they sort of touching on spoilers and all, is that some of these beings are pretty much rumored they could have been like human or animals before they'd become guardians by doing some nice, courageous, selfless feat in their lives towards children, which sets them to being able to go for this sort of guardianship. So one wonders how then Pitch was created, because it's not, because they said he's been around for what they termed the Dark Ages.
One of the things which there's been sort of an origin comic sort of sorted out for Pitch, and one of the things that has sort of he's been written in it is the idea that fear is actually a good thing. He sort of stressed it as the point of view as fear keeps people safe. Go near them. Don't go outside the ring of fire. Don't go outside the light of the fire. Otherwise, monsters will get you.
Makes you weak at the worst of times, but it's also a form of protection, because it's just that I won't go near it. I will protect myself.
It's a natural response. It sort of goes down to the same sort of argument of, you know, they can't be good without evil, you know, they can't be without darkness. Because Guardians were nothing to do, kids weren't for something, because technically what gives children hope, but without that Pitch provides, there would be something.
Yeah. I mean, in the books there was other sort of who gave children fear. But Pitch sort of certainly the bad guy behind it. There were others, agents of his. Like there was the idea of there was this idea of the Monkey King, who'd go around and pull pranks on people and laugh at them, and sort of as a much more dark analogue to Jack Frost almost. And there were a couple of others, I'm not too sure, but yeah, that's the idea. And there's this idea in books, in the things of childhood, it's a lot dark. Like in this sort of the sort of things he has under his collar, basically the versions of My Pony, but in the books have these things called childlings, who are basically children that Pitchers kidnap and fed on nightmares.
I don't know. I mean,
fear
I guess
until
it's
they become
that sort of a lot of film films nowadays. People are afraid
and that's
of
a lot darker. That's a lot more sort of.
That's something they could have done.
That is just
it would have added more peril
dark
for the children, instead of them just going, "Oh, we don't care anymore." It would have given more sort of substance wanting to protect.
Obviously, we see scenes of kids being kids and being taught.
No, but you've seen them hinted at what be.
But if you had this like sort of when you go to the flag of when he is engaged, you should see him a sham going around kidnapping children, summoning his hooligans in the modern and called children like that. Would have been
considering more of even start saying about family line. It could have been if he's wanting children as family, so he's wanting the companionship or some company. He may not be doing it in the right way, but it could have been something that could have given that possible theme, or just again filling out his character, because he was literally just a sort of wah-ha-ha villain. His first appearance is pretty much going wah-ha-ha.
Yeah. Sort of a monologue about how the fact, it's all just needs to introduce a little bit of fear. I gotta love Jude Law for that performance, because of the fact it is so deliciously evil. It's actually almost quite interesting in the they sort of talk about other sort of potential guardians instead of Jack Frost. Like they had the idea of that was the sort of the leprechaun as the guardian, and sort of I think also the groundhog as well, sort of as in Groundhog Day, which might have been quite interesting just to see as much as I liked all the sort of ideas that they're thrown out with all these guardians. I would have liked to see. It's one of those things where I want to see more of this world. I want to see sort of other ideas they put in, like
to lead it on, but you have other things you can come up with. Other ones you can use as villains, or just so they can say, "Let's take a whole day and go see Island Boy."
Repeat itself or something.
Established the base team. You've established their relationships with each other, but the characters can still be developed. So it gives room for like an actual sequel. There is room to develop the characters. It's not just going to be repeating itself if it's done properly.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of the problem with Ice Age. Not being mean, as much as I love Ice Age and even really watch it and see the fourth one, the issue of the characters is sort of they all they haven't been grown as full as the third one. It's just them an adventure, not them growing.
It was definitely like something where the fairies losing doesn't even meant what she was. He'd say all belief in her mentality turned as human one had no memory of two best, but the real fear of trying to win her back. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, she sort of thought there wasn't such worry, because I mean she got off lightly compared to some of the others. One literally pretty much gets killed, and the other sort of gets cutified, which is embarrassing to the character. So you understand that his fear of that, but you don't know if that was what he was to start with, because it's hinted that he clearly was surprised with whatever he turned into. But she just seemed like she flopped. It was like, I've molted a little and
I lost the ability to fly.
Yeah, but other than that, it's sort of, it went a little bit out of I Believe in Fairies, sort of. Yes, but it was as a visual character and as what he was established.
To be fair, it was the same sort of thing which happened with Santa Claus as well. With
you definitely
because the fact
like
all he had to do was just rest on his foot a little bit.
Well, you thought maybe they'd make her look sparse again, sort of reduce her, make her less colourful. She didn't really look less colourful. She just sort of
wait.
As much as she is a wonderful character design, I would have liked more. Again, for her, there seems that you can be. I don't think much do with a lot like that, and go, we should backstory and then sell it as a 30 special for like tenor or something, like they did with like Kung Fu Panda, the poor characters who sort of got ignored for Jack Black. Because there's definitely possibility of even sort of doing a prequel of how the Guardians were founded to start with, again, Your Man in the Moon, and actually establishing more of the character of that than the deity.
And sort of having, again, sort of other ideas.
It's definitely a very good film for Christmas and gets you in that very spiritual, happy, childlike feeling. Yeah. It definitely makes you feel good at the end of it. It's not a film that's overall, like, it's definitely a feel good and fuzzy inside.
Recommend people to go and see it?
And it has that sort of sense of wonder. Even the most buggiest person's bound to have a smile. It's really a film that's got laugh out jokes in. It's not very key suspense. You're pulled out of the world jokes references. It's involved and you can smile a little bit and chuckle. Things that put too many references in, you just give those things kind of better things. It's just the right sort of balance, really. But it could have had more done, but it's still really polished.
Okay.
Wonderful art, great characters. Yeah. Definitely you can watch any time of the year. Could have been more, yes, but you could say that with every film. Don't think of what it is, what it could be. Take it for what it is, and for what it is. Movie? Enjoy it, and I really did money well spent. Leave your parents. They bought the gift cards.
Well, considering it was my money almost, but yeah. Anyway, so on that, I probably have to agree with you. I thought it was a very good movie. Something here definitely not only sort of for the kids, but also the kids and adults really. So the adult children, the sort of kids and all of us really. And I think with that, we'd like to. I think we'd end it here. So it's good night from me, it's good night from Charles, and a good night from Delyth. And remember, cartoons are no longer child's play. Goodbye.